So the timing was around May, June 2020 last year, and the country was just coming out of a very intense, long 45, 50-day period of lockdown. Uh, at OLX, we were, anxious and we were worried as to how would the numbers, business numbers climb back. The platform had been hit hard because being a peer-to-peer transaction platform, people need to meet to be able to fructify any exchange of goods that happens. And because of the way the nature of the lockdown, there was none of that exchange happening. So the numbers on the platform, the user numbers had really plummeted. Now, what we were waiting and seeing with a bated breath as to whether the numbers would climb back to where they were in February or not, and to what extent would we be able to recover and how long it would take. Now, to a pleasant surprise, what happened was that numbers started recovering back quite nicely. We observed the trends over a period of few days, and what we started noticing was that the recovery was rather steady. And over the next few weeks, the recovery was really steep, to such an extent that it got us worried. We were anxious as to where these numbers were coming from. There's a certain sense of loss of control when, even when things are positive. But if there's an extreme positivity and you don't understand what's happening, the sense of not being able to identify or put your finger on it makes one worried. It could be a case of misreporting of numbers. It could be a case of misattribution. It could be a case of bots acting wacky on the platform and so on. So the marketing team, the business analytics team, the technology team, all of us got really into it, trying to identify what was happening. With all the data analysis, all the threadbare, looking at the numbers this way and that way, nothing came out. And, we continued to watch the trend that I was describing earlier. What we did after a while was that we went to the business analytics team and told them, give us the phone numbers, give us a data dump of the consumers who are coming to the platform for the first time. Now, that was a little befuddling for them because we hadn't taken such an approach, in the past. We hadn't needed to. Normally, what we would have done is we would have worked with a research agency in a more calibrated fashion to figure out what was happening. But because this was an unprecedented situation, we just thought, let's try this unconventional approach. And we simply distributed a couple of hundred phone numbers amongst each of us, and we started calling the consumer. Of course, we were careful to do it in a non-intrusive way, and many a times consumers are kind to us if we are specific about what we ask them and take their permission. So we took that liberty. And what came out was, two clusters of consumers who are very active on the platform. The first one, of course, as expected, were people who wanted to buy and sell on the platform. People had been around in their homes. They had had the luxury of time of looking around at things that they did not need. They were putting it up on OLX. Also, people's pockets were pinched. Unfortunately, many of us had lost jobs around this time. So people were looking at buying pre-owned things instead of buying new ones, and trying to save some money in the process and so on. So this was the first cluster which was active on the platform and leading to the growth. Now the second cluster was the one which was interesting. And even though OLX as a platform has been in the country for almost a decade, and some of my colleagues have seen all types of use cases, but this was a unique one which emerged. So there were consumers who were buying things on the platform and then selling it back on the platform, using the arbitrage between the buying price and the selling price, and selling to a different set of consumers. So this was a new type of a use case which we had not seen in the past. And even though it was a very specific one, and maybe it doesn't continue in the future because people may lose the luxury of time and so on. But this was something that came out of our curiosity. So when, in hindsight, when we pushed the limits, when we questioned, all our conventional ways of working, this is what came out. And this is, what is to me, an outcome of being able to push the boundaries. When I talk of a limitless future and I look ahead, I think there are two or three key things which are very important to me as a person. First is curiosity. I think being curious can lead us to beautiful places, and this was an example that I shared just now. The second thing would be flexibility. One never knows what kind of situation one can get thrown into. 2020 was a very severe and unique case, and it led people into very difficult situations. And one never knows what happens in future. So being flexible is something which is important. The third most important to me would be, taking care of people around us. I think whatever we achieve in life is at workplaces is through our teams. It's not alone. Taking care of our team members, realizing what their intrinsic motivations are, taking them along is something which is critical for me, and I would say it would be a part of the future when I look at it. Thank you.